Welcome to the Black Doctor Collective podcast. We as Black doctors are in a unique position. We can change our communities, healthcare, and the world. Of course, we start by changing the way we see and value ourselves. I'm your host, Dr. Shanika Horn, pediatrician and physician coach, travel extraordinaire. I am so happy to have you here and listening. So let's get into it. Hey, have you heard about my upcoming masterclass, Contract Secrets? I'm going to tell you what they didn't teach us in training, which is how to spot and suss out red flags. I'm going to break it down to 3 categories. 1, money blockers, how they're trying to keep us poor. 2, time blockers, how they're trying to monopolize our time. And 3, dream blockers, how they're going to prevent you from pursuing your dreams or make claims to things that you create while you work for them. Why this is not a mandatory part of residency or fellowship training is honestly beyond me, but we're going to break it down. So join me on Wednesday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. In order to register, you can use the link in the show notes for this episode, or you can use the link on Instagram in my bio. I hope to see you there. Bye. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another week of the Black Doctor Collective podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, can you tell that I'm tanned? Because I'm tanned. I'm feeling really good about that. I have been on vacation for the past 2 weeks, and it was glorious. I think by the time you guys watch this, it'll be a week out, but you know, I think that a 2-week vacation is a big deal because so many people either only have 2 weeks of vacation for the whole year, or maybe they have 4 weeks of vacation, but like maybe 2 weeks at a time, twice a year. That's just like in medicine, it's pretty common to have that 1 month of vacation that you split twice. But in my case, I'm already on my 3rd trip of the year. And this most recent trip was for my birthday, and it encompassed 2 destinations. I don't know that no, that's not true. I have done that before, multiple vacations in one trip. But for my birthday, I have never. Yeah, it's a moment. I think past versions of me did not envision this as possible. So I returned, and actually I'm gone again this week to a new country, one that I've never been to before. And this concept is so thrilling. Actually, I didn't even realize there was only a week between returning and setting off for this new destination. And so that's a mind warp. I'm also trying to figure out, I have to unpack one bag, repack another. These are great problems to have. Okay. I'm not complaining. I think I'm just surprised. I'm grateful. I'm excited that this is the way the year is shaping up. Yeah. I think I finally am getting to a place where I am comfortable taking breaks, as many as I need to. It's hard. It's actually hard. In the weirdest way, right? Because in my imagination, my dream life, I am a lady of leisure. I vacation all the time. In reality, we derive a lot of purpose from working, from being productive. And so the concept of being perpetually on vacation sounds great, but also when you have been subscribed to a culture that derives worth from productivity, at some point it starts to feel indulgent, if that makes sense. And so I'm trying to reframe this for my brain, because even talking to you guys about this now feels weird. It feels boastful. I don't know if boastful is the right word, but it seems odd to even remotely complain about taking a lot of vacation time. And I'm not really complaining. I'm just processing this new reality for myself. In medicine, we're trained in the complete opposite way. We are so disconnected from our needs. We've been trained for years to override all of our basic functions: eating, sleeping, peeing, pooping, all the things we do naturally as newborns, as children. When you get to medical training, You are essentially expected to put everything that you need on the back burner in the service of the greater good, in the service of someone else, a patient or some other responsibility that you have, charting. It's crazy because at the point that we leave, we are now telling ourselves it's okay to take a break. It's okay to use the bathroom when you need to go. Like the concept of having to relearn that we need to listen to our body function is so wild to me. Taking a bathroom break is not self-care. Immediately after training, I took a 2-month break. I talk about this all the time. And I thought in my mind that's what I was doing, like taking a break from the constant push, that it was a true break, and that I would gradually make movements towards reconnecting and saving myself. But this is not entirely true. Yes, I was saving myself because I was absolutely at a breaking point, but I didn't really know how to take true breaks. I took a break because I physically could not convince myself to keep going. I know some of y'all are with me on this. You hit a point where you're like, this ain't it. There's got to be another way. Something different has to happen. And that's where I was. I had pushed and pushed myself to the brink of exhaustion, and there was just no way I was going to convince myself to continue to work in that medical environment of seeing a million patients a day, ignoring all my basic bodily functions, not having any time to do anything creative or outside of medicine. Had become so all-consuming that I didn't even know what my hobbies were anymore, what I was interested in. I had stopped watching TV. And I use that as a point of pride. I used to be like, I don't watch TV, an intellectual snob. But honestly, I completely lost all of the things that I did for leisure because work became my religion. And when I got to the point where I just could not do it anymore, that to me is literal burnout. When you cannot continue to do the thing, your body shuts down. I think on a smaller scale, I think of this as when you're in medicine, you need a break, or you're home on the weekend, you have a list of things to do, but you cannot convince yourself to do it. And you end up spending an hour like scrolling on social media or doing something that just doesn't require brain energy, but it's not a conscious decision. It's you look up an hour and a half later and you're like, how did I even get here? How did I manage to waste, quote unquote, so much time? At some point, your brain, your body just indicates like you have to stop. There is no way to continue. I need a break. And so you end up doing these things that are just numbing behaviors because you needed a break, but you didn't acknowledge it. And your body's going to make you take a break some kind of way. And that was what that break for post-fellowship was for me. It was, I needed a break. And my body was like, oh, girl, that's it. We done. No mas. Okay. But I didn't know what it really meant to rest. It was really in that time period that I created the Black Doctor as an organization and tried to figure out how to cure burnout, because surely something was wrong with me that I couldn't continue, that I couldn't do more things. This was a deficit. And I just didn't know what to do when I wasn't doing anything. I certainly didn't know what to say, how to explain it. That's a scary thought. I always wanted to have something to say, like something impressive that I was doing. That has been how I had been reinforced for so many years. Everybody reinforces you when you're doing stuff. They're like, oh, good for you, girl. Get the bag. You big ballin', girl boss. Like all those affirmations are work-centered. And they're very reinforcing of this productivity culture. And I was very much embroiled in that. But to the point where I had really stopped listening to my body, listening to my needs. I had no creative outlets. And yeah, taking a break was forced upon me by my body. Like I literally just shut down. This has continued. This is not like something I cured in that moment. I took this break and I connected to myself. Like, yeah, I had some connection. I figured out things like I needed to have a reduced work schedule. That was the start of it. I figured out a couple things about negotiating. That's really where I started that negotiating arc. But I didn't know what to feel when I wasn't focused on improving or growing. And so even in my work less, I was still being very productive. I was still finding ways to be fulfilled through work, through something that I was doing or producing. I distinctly recall a therapy session, I want to say in 2022, where I was talking to the therapist. She was asking me like what I was bringing to the session. And I'm not someone who has like a formal diagnosis of like anxiety or depression. My therapy is more processing things like this, how to unlearn ignoring myself. How do I battle with that internal voice of doubt? Normal everyday things that all of us experience. Each therapy session, sometimes I'm like, let me figure out what's wrong with me and what I need to fix this week. It's always about growing, progressing. I have measures of progress in my mind, metrics that I want to meet. And I remember coming to this session where I felt really comfortable with what was going on in my life and where I was. And I was uncomfortable with that. What do you do if you're not growing, if you're not actively trying to do and achieve and accomplish? And how do I know when I'm at the phase where I can stop? I think as doctors, we relate to this because we've been climbing a ladder for so long. I find I talk to a lot of doctors who are trying to climb the academic ladder, the corporate ladder, because it's the next step and it's what's expected of them. But it holds no real meaning for them, no passion behind it. They're just doing the next step and the next step and the next step. And so in creating a pathway for myself, I was designing the next step and I was thinking, well, where I am right now feels pretty comfortable. Do I need a next step? If I don't have a next step, what does that mean? And I was having a little freak out moment about it because I had nothing to bring to that therapist. I was like, I feel good. I don't know what we should talk about. But I have a problem with the fact that I don't know what we should talk about. So that's what we talked about in the session. What does it mean to not be growing all the time? What does it mean to derive fulfillment out of my life if I'm not always trying to achieve and do and be productive? It's a very hard thing to do, honestly. I think we have to be really aware of this because the goal of creating a leisurely life, of building rest into our life, is to never go back to doing the thing that created the burnout in the first place. So if I'm just replacing my work productivity with self-care productivity or some other version of doing all the things, then I'm still in that cycle. Self-care should not just be another thing on the list. It's not a version of, oh, I need to make sure I have X amount of spa visits and X amount of vacations and all of those things, right? They're not check boxes. Self-care is also not escapism, which is a slightly different concept where we're using it to escape our lives just for a day, just for an hour, just for a weekend. It really does need to be built in to our life. But in order to build it into our life, we have to attack this concept of productivity. Otherwise, we'll be productive even in our self-care. As y'all are listening, I just took this vacation and this is my struggle. So I'm showing you my evolution in real time. So I took this 2-week break. Even during that 2-week time frame, I started to feel like I was on vacation for too long. 2 weeks? What you doing, girl? What you gonna say you've been doing? I struggled also with not having a plan for every day, for not maximizing the outings, the opportunities. So my trip was to Grenada, which is where I attended med school. I haven't been there in 11 years, y'all. It's been a long time. And before I even went, I was like, oh, I want to eat at all the places I used to eat. I want to drive to all the neighborhoods I used to visit. Mind you, I lived there for 2 years. Grenada's not a large place, but like the idea of going on vacation and trying to hit a whole bunch of useless milestones is even exhausting in the planning stage. My second week was in St. Vincent, which is the island where my family is from. Actually, Grenada and St. Vincent are right next to each other. And the reason I chose the two places was because it was my birthday and my boyfriend was coming with me. And he, despite having been to like every continent except Antarctica, has never been to a Caribbean island. I know, gasp, shock, awe. So I thought, okay, he's coming directly from Ghana, and then we're going to go on this vacation. He's going to be jet lagged. He's going to want to rest. He works ridiculously, even on weekends. His work ethic is similar to mine. I think he's more severe, honestly. But when it comes to vacation, he really actually wants to rest. So I figured I'm going to pick these two islands because I've been there before and I know myself. If I go to a new place, I want to see all the things just in case I never go back. Are you like this? What kind of vacationer are you? Are you the kind that can just go to a place, be on a resort, never leave the resort, relax, drink pina coladas poolside, sleep in, all that stuff? Or are you an itinerary girly like me? You have a plan for the sites you want to see, the places you want to eat. The first time we went on a trip, I don't even know if I should tell y'all. The first trip we went on together was to Hawaii, and we'd probably been dating 4 or 5 months, like not long. We decided we're going to Hawaii. He decided that he wanted to take us to Hawaii. I planned this trip, like I planned every day of this vacation. I didn't know another way. I even went on Canva. Yes, Canva, don't judge me, judge your mama. I went on Canva and created a daily itinerary with times, locations. It was beautiful. I had it on the top that it was our vacation and I sent it to him. And I'm surprised this man did not go running for the hills because it was real OCD, y'all. It's just funny to even think about that. Like, I literally did not know how to vacation in a way that meant rest. I was like, I've never been to Hawaii. We got to go up to the top of the volcano and watch the sunrise tour. We got to see the salt ponds. We have to eat at the top rated restaurants. I worked for weeks trying to secure us reservations. I wanted to watch. There was so much stuff packed into the schedule that he literally had to ask me for one day in that trip where we didn't plan anything and we were allowed to be spontaneous. Spontaneity, that's not my language. I don't even know what that word means. So I have to say there has been progress because when I was planning this trip to Grenada and then St. Vincent, like I said, the reason I chose the location was because I wouldn't feel all of that internal pressure, because it really is all internal. But I wouldn't feel that pressure to go and do and see all the things, because a lot of those things I've already done and saw. And yet and still I found myself trying to make daily itineraries. And I did, because, it's me. And I'm a work in progress. And also, there's nothing wrong with a plan. I like a plan. I think that being in this relationship with someone who was happy to just sleep in and not leave a resort and stroll around and play everything by ear because the rest of his life is so jam-packed has created a little bit more balance in me. I am just starting to appreciate also separately that sometimes there isn't more that I should be doing, and that my vacations don't need a metric of all the things that I have accomplished, checking off all the boxes on sightseeing, etc. I'm also trying not to judge myself because it didn't come from nowhere. I think about the fact that I grew up in a household, single mother household, where she had 3 weeks of vacation in the year. Vacation was very limited in terms of where we could go. I traveled probably more than she did because I had summers off and I would get to go to visit some family relative and spend my summers at their house. But when you on average are taking 1, maybe 2 trips a year, or having 1 or maybe 2 breaks, I should say, not every break required a trip or could afford a trip. But there is a pressure to try to maximize everything that happens in that time frame. It's the same way that we use our weekends. We want to rest, but we also are aware of the list of things that we weren't able to accomplish during the week. And so there's errands, there's chores that we didn't have time to do. It's why the weekend goes by so fast. And we don't feel like there is enough time, because there isn't. We're choosing between resting and running. And so you don't actually have time to fully rest the way you need to. And it's really hard for me individually. I don't know about y'all, but it's really hard for me to rest with a list of things that I haven't done. I am disturbed by that list. There is like a weight I feel because I haven't accomplished the laundry. I didn't grocery shop. I know I need to set myself up for the next week because I don't have time to do it during the week. I'm trying to eat healthy. I also probably need to work out. Like there's 1.5 million things that I need to do, and rest always falls to the bottom of that list. So the same thing happens with vacations. If you have a limited time to rest and maybe travel or do the thing, you're going to do the thing. And also the memory of doing the thing probably keeps you afloat a little bit longer than if you just rested. You almost feel like you wasted time in resting. Rest is not a waste of time. It is definitely something I'm working to unlearn, but this is where the root of this idea comes from. So on my actual vacation, I rested a lot. We slept in every morning. There were some afternoons where we napped. And especially him, because he was jet lagged. So knowing that he's jet lagged, knowing that I want to be able to support my partner in being restful, I tried not to overbook our schedule. Yeah, we really just relaxed a lot. We strolled down the beach. We just ate at our leisure. When we were hungry, we went and found food. This was particularly easier in St. Vincent because we stayed at the brand new Sandals location. They just opened a Sandals. I've never been to a Sandals before. I've actually never been to an all-inclusive resort before because pretty much all of my travel has been to, it started off always being someplace that I had family. So growing up, I always traveled and stayed with family. And then now that I travel more to new places, it's usually I'm trying to explore. Like I've covered. I always have an itinerary. I have all the things I want to see. And all-inclusive for me is a little bit restrictive because if the meals are free, I'm going to want to eat the meals at the resort. I'm not going to want to go out and pay, but you have to be tied to the resort in order to constantly be eating there. So I haven't actually ever done an all-inclusive before, but St. Vincent was perfect for that. I've been to all the places in St. Vincent. I've been up and down and around that island so many times growing up, and my boyfriend doesn't care. So we enjoyed the all-inclusive Sandals resort and just rested. Now that resort I have mixed reviews on, but conceptually it was nice to just be in a place, just get up and go eat. My wallet never left the hotel room, and it was great. We just slept in. What I learned from taking that kind of break is that I am reconnecting with my body and I start to appreciate my needs. I am not eating in a structured lunch schedule. I'm so programmed that I will still eat lunch at the time that I would eat lunch if I was working. But now that I've been on this schedule where I only work a couple days a week clinically and I'm home more days, working remotely, both for clinic and for coaching, I have a lot more flexibility in the hours that I eat. So I may not eat breakfast till later. I may not eat lunch till later. I'm allowed to follow my cues a lot more. And the same thing happens when I'm on vacation. So I am learning how to listen to my body. I think this leads to a lot less overeating, not surprisingly. I'm using the bathroom when I need to go, which let me tell you was not always something that I did. I will sit in this house and I would literally hold my pee. Maybe this is TMI, but I would just be doing so many things. And I'm like, oh, let me just finish these couple of things before I go off to the bathroom. And that is very much a learned behavior from medicine that I would do even in my house. Please tell me I'm not the only one. Do y'all do this? Like you could be doing chores or whatever it is, and you will literally delay going to the bathroom or having a meal because you are so used to just being busy and delaying those things naturally. And so that's the kind of behavior I see shifting within myself. And I see that even more so when I'm taking these vacations. When I first took that break after fellowship, that's not what I was doing. I still forced myself to sit at the computer every day, trying to research and read and learn and seek out solutions for why I felt the way I felt and if there was a different way to practice. And I was forcing myself to still stay within the confines of what I had learned as a doctor. I have literally spent the last 3 years teaching myself how to respond to my own needs. It took way longer than that to learn how to ignore my needs. And so the recovery has also been long. As someone who has been very vocal about prioritizing leisure, people often share with me that they also want to have more time, to vacation more, travel more, etc. And so usually my next question to anyone who says that is, well, what does your day look like when you are having an extra day off or doing something leisurely? What would you do with your time if you had more of it? And the first response is always the list of things that they have not yet gotten to. There's some list that's running in your head, or maybe you've written it down, but more than likely you have a list in your head, chores you haven't gotten to, tasks that you need to do, but you just haven't found the time. And that's usually the first thing people are like, oh my God, I would get to do these things on time. I would be more organized. My house would be cleaner, etc. And then they start to go into, okay, maybe I would sleep in a little bit more. I would get up and do stuff with the kids in the morning before school. I drop them off myself. Then maybe I would go to a coffee shop, or I would go back to bed, or I would take a midday yoga class. There's a lot of conversation around starting to ease into the things that they would do that would involve taking more care of their house, their family, and finally themselves. That's where they start to lean into the leisure. They start to think about, well, what would I do if I didn't have a list of things running all the time? I've never actually met anyone that said that they would do nothing. I don't think that is part of the human condition. I certainly cannot judge that because I do not know how to do nothing. Not yet. Resting, I think, is often described as laziness. And so people never want to be lazy. They always want to be doing something. We have a lot of conversations where we talk about our weekends as unproductive, or we discuss that we don't have motivation to do X, Y, and Z. And we say it that way. And from the way people are describing it, that we see it as a character flaw. It is a character flaw to be lazy, to be unmotivated, to be undisciplined, unproductive. And so we're always trying to fix that. We're always in a state of trying to get something done, executing goals, even on vacation. My next step is because I don't think I can be without goals. So my next step, because I'm gradually making improvements, is to reassign the goal, because I do think I still need structure. But I want my goal to be how many times I rested when I needed rest. How many times did I listen to my body? Did I come off of this vacation feeling rested and replenished? I think in this past vacation, I accomplished that. I definitely think it took me closer into that second week to really get there. And then, of course, it was time to return. But I wasn't actually mad about returning. I was ready. I had been giving my body time to recover. And so coming back into my life where I also have not overscheduled myself, I don't feel like I'm pushing so hard. I feel good. I feel replenished. I'm energized. I feel creative. I work so differently when I'm like this. So this impacts not just my health and my home life. It, of course, bleeds into work and work life. I work so much better and I'm so much more, like I said, creative, energized when I have had adequate rest and when I have been listening to myself. I am definitely getting off the hamster wheel. And I can see now this pathway, this movement towards resting for as often and as long as I need is going to be the thing that leads to the best version of my life and the best version of me. And that's still all ahead of me. And so that's so encouraging. I feel hopeful. I feel joyful. It's nice to not feel exhausted and worn down. I think when I start to feel that way, things fall off the rails. And I was definitely starting to feel that way before vacation. I want to be more aware about how that comes up and when I start to shift back into that mode of trying to be the most productive, valued person. I call that valued because I value work in that way, or I think my value is derived from work rather. When I start to feel exhausted, I want to start seeing that and doing what I need to do to shift out of that. That's the true test of my growth, because for me, I always have to be growing. That's it. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm grateful for you guys to be listening or watching. Like I said, if you're on YouTube, if you are listening, I always encourage you, subscribe to the podcast, write me a message. You can email me, you can DM me. I am always interested to hear you guys' feedback. You can always reach out. I love your feedback all the time. I am grateful to share my story with you, and I'm always grateful when you share your stories with me. So have a good week. Be restful. Try to figure out where you can listen to your body more. And if you feel like you are squeezed for time, let's start thinking about what we need to eliminate and what things structurally need to change in our lives so that we have the opportunity to rest more. That is the challenge. And I'll tell you in an upcoming episode how my next trip was. I'm excited about it already. I probably should go pack. All right. Have a great week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And what I want you to do next is link us everywhere you can. Instagram at The Black Doctor. Just become part of our collective. I want you here. Thanks. Until next time. Bye.